Is it this button? No. This button? No. Nope, not this.
Hey, what are you doing? Oh, come on. Caitlin. Sorry, it's sorry. It's summertime, kids are everywhere. Come on, let's go. Bedtime. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
This is the weekend devotion.
So, I had a plan for what I wanted to talk about this week. And then last week happened. George Floyd, the outcry over George Floyd, the racism, the hatred, the protests, the riots, all of it. It's overwhelming, all consuming, and the only thing that seemed to be all over social media and the news. At times crippling. But two things became very evident to me. Number one, I'm not a voice that needs to be heard right now, especially with regards to the cycle of systemic racism. Instead, I need to be an ear to listen. I need to be a mind to learn, and I need to be a heart to love. Number two, love. In this whole ordeal, there are so many times where love is missing. However, there are also times when love is clearly evident. Where you find love, you find God. If there's no love in your actions, there's no God in your actions. And so make sure anything that you do is done with love. Probably more on this topic later. But for now, I pray for everybody involved. And we're going to go on to the topic that I planned on doing from the outset. So summer has arrived. Welcome to my summer studio. No longer from my classroom for the weekend devotion. I will be here for quite a while. Maybe throw up some decorations as we move along the summer. So here we go. This is a topic that I wanted to bring up that happened a couple weeks ago in the news. There's a Christian band by the name of Hawk Nelson whose lead singer, John Steingarten, announced that he is no longer a believer. And while I don't know many of their songs, I know there's one song in particular I know we've sung in our church. And I just wanted to address something real fast on this. And I've listened to a lot of other YouTube personalities kind of jump on the I told you so bandwagon or see Christian music's not all Christian bandwagon. And that's not really helpful to the conversation. I know Mr. Steingarten doesn't need that right now. And surprisingly, he did all this through Instagram, and there really wasn't that much hatred, which is kind of strange for social media. Normally, it's just pile on the situation. So you can look it up if you want. But there's one thing I really wanted to point out from this whole situation that scares the daylights out of me, and I think I've been very honest with our youth group before, that this is what keeps me awake at night. Because this man is not somebody that was a stranger to church. His dad is a pastor. He grew up in church, and they were an integral part of their church life. His father-in-law is a pastor. He has church all around him. And yet, as he grew up, clearly something wasn't clicking for him, and he didn't speak up about it. And it seems like he had a lot of questions that he couldn't get answers to. And even sometimes when he got answers, the answers were, well, have you read the Bible yet? And while we as Christians know that that's where truth can be found, that's not helpful in the moment. It's like if a kid asks me a history question, Mr. Daling, when did this happen? And I say, read your book. It's, yes, technically I'm right. Go read it. But it's not very helpful. And so I'd like to hear from people on this one. I really want to see if you're able to engage in this one. It's the thing that bothers me is that he had questions that he couldn't get answers to. And the more he talked to his friends, the more he realized that his friends had the same questions and nobody could get answers. And, basic And questions like, why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff going on right now. It's a question a lot of people have. And yet, I know when I ask our youth group kids stuff, questions do you have? There's a lot of silence. There's crickets. But I know they have questions. And we're entering into summer where there's not a lot of gathering going on. And so what I'd really hope is that if you're a student watching this video today, I'd really like you to take a moment and go write down questions that you have about Christianity. I don't care if it seems like a basic question or if it's a question you've struggled with for years. Go write it down. If you're an adult watching this, I want you to think of questions you may still have, or questions that you had when you were a kid that maybe you found some answers to. Or maybe they're things you're still looking for. And I would really like to hear from you guys is what are these questions? Or if there's a question that you've had that you've found an acceptable answer to. You've spoken to someone and they were able to help you. Or if, I don't know, there's got to be something that we can do. Because I know we've got questions about Christianity. And the scary part is the world, especially in America, is moving to a post-Christian narrative. And that's even scarier. There's fewer people to get answers from. And we can't afford to let our Generation Z kids grow up lingering with questions, whether they're basic questions about Christianity or, think about it. Where does God come from? That's a basic question. I've heard that so many times from middle school kids. Who made God? And if we can't equip our kids with answers for that, then we're in trouble. So if you're a parent watching this, I would encourage you to have some conversations this summer. And in those conversations, be real with your kids and say, hey, maybe I don't know the answer to that. Let's go on this trip together. Because we grow as Christians better when we grow together. If you're willing, I would love to see questions in the comment section, things that you might be struggling with. Don't be ashamed. No question is a bad question as long as we seek answers for that question. Not an easy way to start the summer, but it could be a very productive summer. Let's find some useful way to grow our faith as much as we can. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Stop. And one of the biggest things that stands out when it comes to Hawk Nelson is that... Wayo! You mean I have to pay you Jimmy John's for doing that little thing right there?
I don't do things for free.
You don't do things for free.